Well, we made it. We made it through the Flux exhibition, which was last week. A very tiring week, to be fair, because we were all there setting the whole thing up from Monday morning right through till Sunday night when we took it down. And then Lisa and the team were back there on Monday just having the walls removed. So if you came along to Flux, thank you very much for coming. You will actually see effectively you'll see how many people came, because I'll be putting that on shortly. But for now, I'm going to kick off with a little bit of news, and also then bring in this week's artist, which I'm sure you're going to be fascinated by, because she spends a lot of time at in the Arctic, which is quite simply quite amazing. So little bit of news, and the news really is based on next week's artist. And next week's artist is Katrina Shearlaw. She's a glass artist, as you can see, another Flux artist. This latest one was her second, sorry. The first one being the previous one in Piccadilly. She had a fantastic section showing off all her glass artwork. Specializes, as you can see, in glass flowers, which are quite staggering. So I want to talk to her about her processes, what got her into it, etc. And that will be next week. This week's artist, Jo Haskins. I've put a small video together of the kind of work that she does. So here we go. So as you can see, there's a massive Arctic influence, and in fact, that's why this is called Arctic Impressions. So let's get Jo in and have a chat. Hello, Jo.
Hi there.
Now we spoke earlier. Have you got the thunderstorms yet?
Yes, it's stormy outside.
Okay, so we're keeping our fingers crossed, because often I get a power cut when there's a thunderstorm. So I'm really keeping my fingers crossed that doesn't happen, because this will go off. But we will carry on. And if it does go off, we'll wait till it's over and we'll probably come back on. So we'll see how we go. So Arctic Impressions is the title of this interview, and that is because we've just seen your work. There's a lot of serious Arctic artwork there. So my first question is going to be, why the Arctic?
I first went to Svalbard in the high Arctic about 20 years ago, and I was lucky enough to participated in a kayaking and trekking tour, and I was kind of overwhelmed by the landscape and the immensity and the colors and the feelings that you feel when you're totally immersed in that landscape.
Right. So that comes across in your art, I must say. Obviously I saw it at Flux last week because I was part of the hanging team as well. But what I find really quite fascinating is I always say to people, artists I interview, how do you choose your color palette? But I think your color palette probably chooses itself in some ways, because the fact that you know what you're actually painting, how you're immersing yourself in it, and you are in that very blue world, obviously. Um, but there must be a serious fascination with the way that glaciers work, how they float, and you're trying to put that across into your work. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah. The Yeah. So when you go in the summertime, the water is often full of large chunks of floating, moving ice, um, and the glaciers behind it, they are moving as well, and they're like chunks of ice are falling off, and it's very um, it makes you very aware of the landscape,
Hmm.
and it's very it gives an enormous impression on how you feel and about yourself, and how um, about yourself, and makes you think about, who am I and where is my place on this planet.
So when you go there, do you go to the same place?
I've so far I've only been to Svalbard. I've
Right.
been to several areas of Svalbard,
Yeah.
and um, what really creates the feelings and the emotions is when you set out and you arrive in this place, and there is just you and a few other people, because we're always in a group.
Hmm.
But there's nothing else. There's just landscape and wildlife, and it makes you reflect about a lot of things in the world.
And have you seen, over the period of time that you've been going there, have you seen changes?
Yeah, yeah,
That's that quite obvious.
yeah. There's obvious changes of melting.
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, the landscape never stands still, so
No.
it's always different. Yeah.
Which must mean that every time that you do go there, you've got something new to look at, something new to sketch, something new to paint, etc.
Yeah, definitely. And the other really inspiring part of going to the Arctic and lots of other places, but is the changing of the seasons, because in the winter it's completely dark, and then in the summer it stays light 24 hours a day.
Hmm.
And then there are these periods in autumn and spring where things are either freezing or melting, and the light is either leaving or returning, and the that experiencing that is very inspiring.
Right. So I'm going to jump back a little bit because I'd like to know how you got into art. When did you first start getting into art, and also what's your background in terms of you've art college, etc., etc. What's been your route to get to where you are now?
So I think that I know that drawing and painting is just part of my life. I've always done it since I can remember.
Hmm.
And it's just been part of my life, either drawing and painting myself or looking at other artists. Um, and when I go to places, um, I'm always thinking of how that could be a painting or a drawing, or um, and So my first art school was, I went to Portsmouth to do a foundation year. And then I went to City and Guilds of London Art School to do painting.
Mm-hmm.
I then moved to France, but the painting and the drawing is just part of me. So whatever else I'm doing, I'm going to be doing that.
Yeah.
I can't imagine my life not painting or not drawing. And if there are phases when I'm not doing it, it's usually because to make my paintings, I need to feel in a good place.
Right.
Because that's what my paintings are about. They're not about being unhappy.
No.
So I need to be in a good space myself. But if I am not painting or drawing, I miss it enormously.
Yeah. So when you moved to France, because we've spoken before, I know that you moved to the Southern Alps, and did that also become an inspiration to you?
Yeah,
You know,
definitely.
I mean, I've seen some of your drawings, and I'm guessing that some of those relate to that, because on your website it's quite clear, and we'll come to those in a bit. But so that's quite interesting that I mean, I can see that your work is really, it's really related to form. We can all see behind you. I asked you to put a few of your pictures behind you, especially these were the ones that you had at Flux. So, and the reason for that, for me asking, is because then people get a sense of size, because that, again, I think that's a real big thing. It's no good. You know, you're painting something that is immense, but you want to try and bring that size across to the viewer as well, which is quite important, I think, too. I've got let's just call these up. So we spoke about this one during the week. I'm going to put us on the side so people can see that. We spoke about this one during the week, and you said that this was an early painting. Am I right in remembering that?
Yeah, that painting was made in response to my very first visit to Svalbard.
Yeah.
It, for me, it began a new phase in painting.
So what do you do? Do you sketch it? Do you sketch it while you're there? Do you take photographs? What do you do? Because obviously you're not going to, well, maybe you do, but I don't think you'd probably take a great big canvas and easel and set yourself up in the middle of a glacier and start painting. So I think that would probably be a little bit bonkers, but I might be wrong. You might do that. So what's your process?
Yeah, so you're right. It is rather tricky taking enormous canvases out there. Although I have actually thought, perhaps for my next visit, I may actually prepare some rolled up canvases that I can just unroll and work on in certain situations. But I basically I make drawings and small paintings, small color sketches. I write notes.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Yeah,
and yes, I do take photos as well. So it's a combination of really anything I can do on site.
Yeah, because then I suppose then it's quite important where your colours and shading are, to give you the impression that you with the paint work that the painting that you've created, I should say. So the different colours of the same colour or different hue, different light, darkness of it is giving the impression, which it would be if you think about it being a glacier. That's exactly what it is. All the different colors in the glacier are coming through in your work, which is pretty impressive, I have to say. I've got the next one is a bit of color, because it's got that colour into it. So let's have a little bit of a explanation. I mean, I can see what I think, but that doesn't mean anything, as I've in past interviews quite clear that I've been wrong sometimes as well. So what would you just give me a sense of what this one is?
Right, so this painting is a fairly recent painting.
Mm-hmm.
And it was made as a result of an artist residency, which I did in April in 2023, I think. So I chose to go in April because I hadn't been in April before, and I wanted to experience the difference in the landscape, basically. So in April, there is this very different light because the sun has recently come back, and there are these amazing sunsets. So yeah, this painting was made as a result of I think it was about 5 or 6 in the evening, and there, the colours on the sort of forms in front of me were very spectacular.
Yeah. Well, you certainly captured that. That's for sure. This one we have is drifting. I think it's kind of self-explanatory. So this is what's highlighting to me, and again, I do say this quite often, but how important a title is to a painting, and the title, in a lot of instances, the title is just as important as the work. Because if people see this and you're not there to explain it, then the title gives a real big help to what that is. So again, you've got a few different ones which we're coming on to, which are relate to floating, but this one quite clearly drifting. So again, are you when you're in this area? I mean, are you in a boat? Are you on a piece of land that's jutting out into it? What's that there?
Well, in this particular picture, I was in a kayak.
Ah, okay.
But it varies. With the previous painting, I was sitting on the beach.
Right.
So yeah, it varies.
So, crikey! So you must be sitting in this water for a while you're sitting there sketching and doing what you need to do in a kayak. Then,
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're in a kayak, it's quite tricky, really, because you can only take very, very limited amount of materials, and
yeah,
you're constantly moving. It's so it's like I say, it's a combination of very quick studies and photographs, but the other really important aspect is memory,
yeah,
because how people experience a landscape and remember it is very individual. People see things in different ways.
yeah.
And so what I'm trying to portray are my memories, my experiences, but with the idea of with the idea of trying to portray the spirit of the place.
So yeah, so effectively, yeah, I can understand that now. I can understand why you do what you do, and also it gives you the fact that you are actually immersing yourself into that landscape. Do you find that you have to deal with wildlife as well?
Yeah, there is wildlife. I'm not sure if dealing with it is quite how I'd put it. I mean,
Running away from it, then. Paddling very fast.
I mean, one of the most important things, I think, which I've learnt from being particularly in this landscape, but it's similar, you know, in the mountains as well.
Mm.
Is realizing that we are just part of the landscape, and that what we're surrounded by, it is there, and we are just part of it, and we're just passing through. So really, a large part of my art is trying to portray, or giving other people a chance to appreciate
Yeah.
where they're living, you know, what planet we're living on.
Yeah.
And I think when you go to those kind of places in that situation, you come out of yourself a bit, and you learn to appreciate what's around you, and to understand that, you know, we're living there as well with everything else. And yeah.
So this one we're looking at here, Waiting. What's the story behind that one?
Yeah, so I actually find titles. I find it quite difficult, actually, choosing titles, because I don't want to kind of give it all away. I want it to be open to interpretation.
Yeah.
So I try to give titles that may entice people to think about what they're looking at, and that's maybe slightly ambiguous. So this one is called Waiting. Basically, it was, I was on the shore, and this enormous iceberg was just sitting there looking out to the sea.
Wow.
So I'm not sure what it's waiting for, but
Well, yeah. No, I'm not sure, but that must be some sight. That must be absolutely stunning to stand or sit and watch that. That must be amazing. It's, I mean, the Arctic's, all of that area is on my bucket list to do, but so an unbelievable amount of other places in the world to go to. I'm completely fascinated by ancient civilization, so there's quite a few places I want to get out the way first. But this area is definitely a place that I should imagine is on a lot of people's list, to be fair. But what you're doing with your art is you're bringing that to them,
yeah,
and getting them to feel, hopefully feel what you feel. This next one, Reflections, is again, it's a title that has a lot of different meanings, because it could be you reflecting on your visit. It could be reflections in the water, etc. So, what is your intention? Because I mean, clearly it's reflections in the water, looking at the way it's been mirrored. But is it also got that double meaning of reflecting on your visit and your time there?
definitely, yeah,
Yeah, I
definitely.
thought it would be. Yeah, it's it's quite interesting. I think the use of these different variations of a similar color. It's quite interesting how unbelievably you can still create something like that by just doing that. Um, we will come on to. I'm going to go onto your website in a bit. Got another couple of these to do, but just leap into the fact that these are also mirrored in your silkscreen printing work, aren't they? So we'll come on. I'm going to call your website up in a bit and show people that too. I think there's two more, which is the floating 3 and floating 4. Are these ones new? Because I think you've got some of these behind you, haven't you? You've got certainly got. I think, is it 4 or is it? Yeah, is it? It's this one that you got behind you, isn't it? Floating 3,
Yeah,
sitting on top of your radiator.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's a similar thing, is it? Well, I mean, were you in a kayak for this one? Were you on a beach?
Yeah, that image was when I was in a kayak. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you, I mean, look, It's not a silly question, this, because there's definitely some people out there that would do this, but I am assuming you don't go hurtling out in a kayak on your own.
Oh no, definitely not. And
No.
it's A, I wouldn't be capable, uh, but B, it's not allowed,
No,
and
no,
C, you know, I mean, it's just too dangerous. So
unless you're
no, the trips I've been lucky enough to participate in, it's like small groups between 6 and 12 people.
okay.
Yeah, and
Okay.
we're in double kayaks, so there's 2 of you in the kayak.
Yeah, I thought that's you were going to say that when you just said you're not allowed on your own. So that kind of helps, I guess, while you're doing some sketching and taking your photographs, that someone else could be keeping the kayak steady,
Yeah,
which is
definitely.
yeah. Well, that's very useful. I mean, this one to me is quite. I feel this is quite foreboding. This one, just because of the dark sea, and of course, with all icebergs, you don't know how much is under the water either, and that's generally huge. So yeah, I think this one's quite foreboding actually. Quite gives you a real sense of what you're looking at in terms of a floating iceberg. Um, and do you find that? So when you are in your kayak and you're working your way around these, do you get that real sense of the power that these icebergs hold?
Yeah, and I mean that sense is related to all of the landscape,
Mm,
that basically the you know the power and strength of nature. Basically,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
there's a kind of a contrast going on of the power and the strength, and yet the fragility of the
mm,
situation.
mm,
So and this contrast of, you know, the melting and the freezing, which happens throughout the year, I find quite fascinating.
yeah.
But every now and then these icebergs, in fact, you shouldn't go too near, because every now and then they can move and turn over.
Oh
Um,
dear.
so yeah, you don't want to be underneath.
Right. So anybody listening out there that wants one of your paintings, I'll suggest you get one pretty damn quick, because just in case anything happens in the future. Uh, not that I'm wishing anything on you, Joe, but blimey, it sounds like you take a little bit of a risk
No, no,
with
no.
some of this.
It's all very. We're professional guides. So,
Okay. Well, that's good to know. That's for sure. What I'm going to do is just now share the my other screen that I've got open, which is your website. So joehaskins.co.uk. And what I'm in here, so obviously up the top you've got the portfolio, collaborations, etc. But this is I'm in your silk screen section. So you can see obviously you've got silkscreen prints that mirror some of the work that you've done as paintings. And I haven't mentioned this at all, but you use oil rather than acrylic. Is that true?
yeah, I'm a lover of oil paint. I've always loved
Yeah,
the
yeah,
the oil paint, the texture, the smell, everything that goes
yeah.
with it. Yeah.
So so I asked this of artists. Generally, that's not the case with people who paint acrylic, but it's certainly often the case with people who use oil. Are you do you have more than one painting on the go at any one time?
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, because you're waiting for paint to dry. Yeah.
No, not necessarily.
No, no.
It's more a question of uh, one painting and perhaps informing another, or working on them at the same time because they're connected.
Okay. So when you're doing a silk screen print of one of your paintings, what's the process involved in doing that?
Right. So it's not like it's one and then the other. Um,
Okay.
uh, so recently, I decided to go back to art college,
Hmm.
um, because I wanted to learn about printmaking. So I found the perfect course, drawing, painting and printmaking at Plymouth College of Art, which is now Arts University Plymouth. So I wanted to learn about printmaking and connect it to my paintings and drawings.
Okay.
So that's those prints there are the results of me learning about printmaking, really. And but it's I may start the print or I may start the painting, but then I like work on them as a collaboration, like they're informing each other.
Mm-hmm.
And what I like about the printmaking is that there's something unknown to me. So it takes me out of my comfort zone, and it becomes the result is always a bit of a surprise. There's spontaneity in it, and I find that really helps me make decisions about my paintings.
Right. I mean, these ones in the middle, quite different to the others. Arctic Impressions too. These two, quite different, but there's something really quite powerful about those in terms of the texture, compared to, say, this top one, the one underneath it. There's again, there's something quite foreboding about those two images.
Well,
Which
in actual fact, so the top ones are silkscreen prints, and the
yeah.
underneath is colograph.
Ah.
So colograph is
Oh yeah. So it is.
It's all about texture.
Yeah.
So when I made those, you make your colograph plate. It's made up of different textures. So that's
Yeah.
that's
I like.
the whole part of it, to create these different textures and then ink up the plate and have more ink in some areas than others. And what I was trying to do there was really create a kind of Arctic atmosphere.
Yeah. Well, I think you have. I think they're excellent, and I find that quite interesting because you're keeping your same theme through what you're doing, but you're using different techniques to create still that sense of being immersed into the Arctic, which I think is really good. I really like these ones in the middle, and that's going to leave me on to, wait a minute, it's come down. I'm going to drawings because I'm assuming that these are the sketches. Some of the sketches that you do, not necessarily when you're there, but when you come back, look at the sketches you've done, because some of particularly these, the shading and the work that you've done on those to give that give the presence into those it really gives you an idea just how skillful you are at your work, which I think is really quite something. Again, so here's the ones that we were talking about, saying, do the area that you lived in, does that reflect? So that's there. But equally, I like this. I like this one too, which I had in the little video that I did, because it's all about shading, and very, very cleverly done, if you don't mind me saying so. I do, yeah.
I don't mind compliments.
No, well, I think that it's, if you look at this one, bring this up on the screen, you can see that it's basically done with shading. There's no dark lines. There's no pencil lines as such. It's just shading. It's really quite extraordinary.
So the three drawings of the mountain, they actually fit together to make
a range.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I know. I did say to you when we chatted during the week that I've skied there, so I recognise the range for sure. Quite a fabulous area of France. All of that is actually. Yeah, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Now we are just over halfway through.
Just to clarify, the
Yeah.
2 drawings at the top,
Yeah.
they were actually done on site.
Oh, they were?
Yeah.
Wow.
And
They were done on site?
yeah,
I mean, that's quite a big... they're quite big pieces, aren't they? To
yeah,
obviously.
yeah, there
But
was a funny event of carrying a large, well, a large block of paper wrapped up in plastic bags on the kayak. Yeah, it was quite funny.
Wow.
And the pictures of the mountains, they were done from my window, the view from my window.
Oh, okay. Well, all I can say is, what a shame you lived there. Crumbs. How many people would love to be looking at that every morning? Dear, oh dear. Absolutely stunning. Yeah, superb. Right, let me just stop sharing my screen. Okay, we're just over halfway through. I promised people right at the start I'd give them a flavour of what Flux was like. I've just put a short video together, and this has come from one of the other artists at Flux, because although my plan completely was I was going to broadcast from Flux. Yeah, no problem. I'll be able to do that. Oh, no, not a chance. It was way too busy, and I was too busy talking to people. So I don't even know what made me think I would be able to do that, to be honest. But fortunately, there are people that have taken a lot of pictures, people that have put a video together. So I'll quickly, this afternoon, well, I say quickly, it's not a 2-minute thing, but I've put this together so that people have got a bit of an idea what last Thursday night was like. And while they do that, while people watch this, I'm going to top up my water, because I don't know about you, Joe, but it's absolutely boiling in here. Luckily, looking out the window, it hasn't quite started raining yet, so we're not in for thunder. So I'm going to play this. We've got about 2 minutes 52 seconds of a video from last week, just enough time for me to top up my water. So I'll be back in 2 seconds. So there you go. If you didn't come, what a shame. You missed it. It was quite amazing. The actual event itself on Thursday night was brilliant. As you can see, we had some drag queens. They had all sorts going on there, and it was very, very busy. That was just a little small section of the night. There was an awful lot of people walking around, and so did you get? How was your feedback, Joe? Did you get some good feedback about your work? Did you get a lot of people starting to follow you on social media?
Yeah, it was a really exciting event, and yeah, I've accumulated quite a lot more followers and lots of people coming up chatting. Yeah, it was a really exciting event.
Yeah, so some of the things that were said to me was that it's one of the best, if not the best, exhibition I've been to. I think that the thing to sort of point out more than anything is just how much the exhibition flows. So, you get areas of people that are abstract artists, for instance, but they're not all the same. They're not, they don't do the same type of work. There was a whole wall of pop art type work, but again, it was still different, and that's very much in vogue at the moment as well. But I think the only downside potentially is too many people, and you end up with a sore throat by the end of the night because you're busy talking the whole time. Well, I am anyway, and everybody knows that from me, that I can certainly talk for England, that's for sure. But yeah, fantastic. Met some fantastic people. Came very, very close to selling one of my big pictures, which happens quite a bit, but it was exceptional. And I was a bit, I was surprised actually that even though the temperatures were quite high, it wasn't really overwhelmingly hot, was it? We didn't have anybody flaking out or anything.
Not that I noticed, but
No, no, we didn't. Not I'm well falling over because I've had too many glasses of wine, maybe, but certainly not because it was hot. So actually, over the weekend, it was really, really quite cool. It's a superb venue in that it mixes the old with the new. You've got all of that sort of decaying brickwork, etc., and then you've got all this amazing art sitting in the middle. So well done to Lisa Gray for finding the venue and putting it all together, because that woman works her socks off. She doesn't wear socks, but you know what I'm getting at. And her and Phil are going off on holiday soon, and that's well deserved. But when she comes back, we will be straight back on sorting something out for later in the year, which is all good. But again, you've got people like Katerina Diaz, her husband Vito, all of us working to put the event on and get it all ready and get together. And Vito was actually on the decks for the night. Somebody apparently asked him if he could play Slade, Christmas song. I thought that was quite hilarious.
I know that one well.
Well, yeah, don't we all? Sick of it. But it was really quite funny. So, from your point of view, Joe, you're obviously you're not in France tonight. And your work from Flux is sitting behind you. So you're at your aunt's in North London. When are you off? When are you back off to France?
I'm going back to France next week.
Right. And so, had all your work, does that go back with you, or does that stay in this country for your next exhibitions? Or
some of it is coming back, and some of it is staying.
right. So.
Because I have actually recently been selected for the Woolwich Contemporary Print Fair.
Oh, okay, brilliant.
That's happening in November. So
excellent.
I'm really excited about that, yeah.
So what, have you got any other exhibitions or anything coming up?
Yeah, I've recently encountered a gallery in a town not far from where I live in France.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm actually going to be exhibiting in 3 exhibitions there, one in September, another in November, and another in December and January.
So have you exhibited in France before?
Yes, yeah.
And if you have, then how does that differ to exhibiting here, or doesn't it?
Well, it depends. I mean, it's been over a long period of time, so things change. But also, I've exhibited in different kinds of exhibitions or art fairs, or one of them that I actually particularly remember is it's called the Fête des Peintres, which means like celebration of painting, which actually happened in the streets of Saint-Rémy. So I've participated in that a few times. And then you get the group shows, or you get smaller galleries. So it's a whole mixture. But like here as well, you have the all different kinds of events.
Yeah, which is good. Now, there was one character who was exhibiting his work almost opposite you, who spent all of the whole exhibition having the time of his life.
Yeah.
He was walking around on the private view with an unbelievably fabulous kimono on, having people trying it on, him taking his pictures, etc. Well, he's left a comment tonight, and we'll bring that up about your work. So the works that I had the privilege of seeing at Flux of something different and convey a feeling of immense tranquility and pleasant solitude. Well done, Joe. Now, Paolo is amazing. I really enjoyed my talk with him. We've got a real affinity, the pair of us. And he was, to be fair, he was brilliant at Flux and genuinely had the time of his life. He's such a great, lovely man to speak to. But he's watching tonight, so hello, Paolo. Thanks for coming on. And there you go, Joe. He's very complimentary about other artists, which is, I think, we all need to be, because we all need to really sort of help each other. It's not all about me. It's and that's why I do this show. I do this show primarily to highlight other artists, make people aware of what Flux is about, which is the magazine, which primarily does. And again, that's something that I know Lisa is working on the next edition, which will come out soon. But if anybody, we all work hard. You don't get anywhere. In fact, Arnold Schwarzenegger in his documentary says you will never get anywhere if you spend your life with your hands in your pockets. And that's very true, because you have to get on and do it. And what you're basically saying with your work is you miss it if you're not painting. And that means it's a passion. That passion then comes out in your artwork. So look, he loved chatting with you, Joe.
Yeah, me too.
He's I'll tell you something funny. So I had somebody really wanted him a painting, but his wife didn't want it, and that happens. But Paolo said to me, "Oh, you really should have concentrated on her and offered her a chocolate." And I said, "Well, I didn't have any chocolates." He went and bought me a box of Quality Street for the next person that comes through the door, so I got no excuse. It's absolutely hilarious, brilliant, really, really funny. I think, but that again, it's just something about Flux that it is a community. There's no doubt about it, and you don't get groups of artists all sort of clicky and joining each other. Everybody walks around talking to everybody, and you find out a lot about people actually at these exhibitions. And so, I mean, did you meet new people Did you meet new people in terms of artists that you've not seen before, and now suddenly you've got a bit of an affinity with people like that?
Yeah, definitely. You know, it was nice going back on the other days of the exhibition, where the artists were there, and I mean they were all there on Thursday, but you know it was all very exciting and lots of people. But so it was on the other days where I actually met some of the other artists, and
Yeah.
that was really nice, really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean there was a couple of people. I mean there were a few artists that have come from other countries, which is fantastic because you know it's not easy. There was a young girl from Finland who had to, with her mother, had to leave Finland at like 4:30 in the morning or something daft to get over to do the exhibition, and that was her first exhibition ever. So she really, yeah, she really enjoyed herself, understanding you know what exhibition's about. I think it'll be good. It'll certainly be good for me to be doing a few more exhibitions abroad. And I think that's true of a lot of artists. And hopefully that's the sort of thing that will end up coming from things like this, basically. It's kind of PR is the hardest thing of all. And I think we spoke about this at Flux, that you get to a sort of a point doing all the stuff you can do yourself, but often you do need someone to give you that extra help. There's no question. But unfortunately, one of the biggest things of all is that involves money, and therefore, if you're not an artist who's making enough money in the first place, it's quite difficult to employ someone to do that as well. Do you do all your own stuff, like your website, or you know, do you have people that can help you?
Well, I've spent 4 years studying. That was another reason why I went back to art college, was to learn a bit more about the professional side of it, how to all the professional issues. Basically, that was a large part of my learning experience there, and they were really precious to me, those learning experiences. So yes, I did have someone to help me with the website, and all other aspects really of trying to be seen. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very difficult thing. And then that sort of leads back to the Flux Review magazine, because again, that's what Lisa's about. You know, our artist interviews and highlighting different artists and bringing them to the world, really, which is again how we've ended up here, creating this broadcast. So we've already mentioned, you know, have you got anything new coming up? But what we haven't mentioned or asked is, are you planning to go back to the Arctic?
Yeah, definitely.
And when's that likely to be? Is there a certain time of year you go every time? Because obviously there must be certain times of year where it's probably about -40 or something. So
well, yeah, but I mean, I'd really like to experience all the different times of the year there. Most of my visits were in the summer.
okay.
So hence the icebergs. My most recent visit was in the springtime, and I'd really like to go back in the springtime. So I'm trying to organise that now to go back in March, April, May.
Well, next year.
Yeah.
Next year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah. Next year. Yeah. Because I'd really like to continue my work about I'm very interested in that phase where things start melting and cracking. I find that very
Yeah.
exciting and
Yeah.
inspiring. Yeah.
I should think that's quite a noise as well.
Well, yeah, sometimes.
Yeah, it must be a little bit. Make the boat rock a little bit, I should think. The kayak rock a bit.
Well, there isn't really any kayaking in the spring, because
okay.
The sea ice is melting, and that's and cracking. So my next phase of work This is that's inspiring my next phase of work. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Do you so and what about anywhere else in the world? What about anywhere else? Why, okay, Arctic, yeah, can see all that. Great. But what about somewhere else? Is there anywhere in the world that you think, oh yeah, I'd love to go there and start having a look at that?
Well, there's loads of places in the world I'd like to go to. And I have recently actually been thinking of contrasting the Arctic landscape with a very different landscape, a hot landscape.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool.
And then bringing the two aspects together. So like a kind of a contrast of landscape.
Yeah.
The very cold and the very hot.
Yeah, that would be very cool. So obviously then you've got a reasonable list that you're putting together, which is good as well, because you can't. I think your ability is in showing everybody, is getting people to be immersed into that landscape, and I think you've definitely got to look at other landscapes that have the same sort of feeling, and drop you in it. I mean, obviously, I did a trip a few years back now, probably 20 odd years ago, to the Rockies. But the problem with the Rockies, I felt, was that it's quite lacking in colour, because it's all, the Rockies are grey, so it's quite lacking in colour compared to somewhere in Europe, for example, where you've got different colours in the mountains. But lacking in colour is not necessarily a problem for you, because you're dealing in tone and shade, and I think that would be pretty impressive, because I think what you'd be able to show in terms of somewhere like the Rockies, you'd get the same sort of power from those mountains that you've got with your your Arctic ones. So maybe
I could do this one day. Maybe.
Yeah. Well, that's one to stick on your list, I think. Anyway, I told you that hour would go quite easily. It's amazing to me how many people really get panicky about, is it an hour, a whole hour? But an hour goes really quite quick, to be fair. And look, everybody knows too, we don't have a script. We're just having a chat, which is what we've done. I hope everybody has found this really interesting, from getting to know you a bit about particularly about your work and what your work portrays. Because I personally, especially at Flux, could see straight away that people felt immersed into your work, which is what you're trying to put across, and also getting them to understand. It'd be interesting to see if the trips to the Arctic went up because people looked at your work, or because they watched this. I hope it does. But I hope you've enjoyed yourself, Joe. I hope you haven't found this too traumatic.
No, it's been great, and thank you so much. And
yeah, it's an absolute pleasure.
Many thanks to Lisa and the team. Yeah, it was really exciting event.
Yeah, it was. And okay, well, just stay on. Don't rush off. I will switch you off the screen, but we'll have a quick little chat afterwards. But for now, Joe Haskins, thank you very much. Well, I found that absolutely astonishing. What a great artist. Absolutely fabulous work. Really interesting. And also the lengths that people go to for their work. Kayaking in the Arctic. God, it's a tough life. Someone's got to do it. I think, personally, think that would be absolutely amazing. But and something probably I need to think seriously about doing before I leave the planet. I'm gonna get too old to do it. But thanks for watching again. Next week's artist, as I've already said, is Katrina Shearlaw. It'll be the same time, 7 o'clock. She's a glass artist who is quite remarkable. She's another one who I've had to cajole a bit to come on because she's a little bit nervous about doing that. But you will be fascinated as well by how she works and her story. Her story is quite amazing. How she's ended up doing what she does. Cracking interview that'll be as well. So thanks very much for watching, people, and I will see you next week.